Hey everyone! Today I am showing you how to make my favorite design ever, which is the one shoulder wide leg jumpsuit. So I have my two front pieces. I also have a front piece in my lining fabric, which I just use stretch mesh because it's very thin and stretches in all directions, which is what we want. I have some padding, which is optional, the leg piece, and the 4 straps here. So I'm going to start with the front piece. Now it doesn't matter which one you use, but if you use this one, so where the shoulder is on the left with the right side of the fabric facing up, then your straps, your jumpsuit is going to have the straps on the left hand shoulder. And if you do this step with the right one, it's going to end up on the right hand side. So just keep that in mind, but it doesn't matter which one you use. I'm going to go for the left one because I'm just used to that. Going to place it right side facing down. And I'm going to place the lining layer on top and just add a couple of clips around. Now this step is optional. Actually, the lining is optional. So if you don't want to add padding, then I don't think you really need a lining because it's already got 2 layers. But the lining creates pockets for your padding, so they're not just like openly sitting in this area. So this step will depend on what padding you have. I have this padding that is quite thick and structured, but it's also quite small. And you want to do this step with your padding. So if you have bigger padding, it might look a little bit different. So I'm going to place one of my pads in the middle, centered to this strap here. So you see it's in the middle. That's where I'm going to place it. So then I'm going to mark out a couple of centimeters to the side of it with some clips. I might get some chalk. So we're going to do a straight stitch down this line here. And what that does is create 2 pockets for the padding. So this is what it looks like. We've got that straight stitch down the middle. Because it's vertical, it can be a straight stitch because it doesn't need to stretch too much. And I think it looks really clean. And all this does is stop the padding from sort of moving around too much. So we're going to place it right side facing up. We're going to take this other front piece, place it right side facing down. We're going to clip the arm hole here. We're going to clip this long section at the top here. And we're going to clip this long section up until the point here. And now we're going to sew all 3 of these. I use my overlocker as standard. But if you only have a sewing machine, that's completely fine. Just use a stretch stitch. Usually a zigzag stitch is what we would use. So zigzag along here. And it will do exactly the same job. That's all done. So we'll put this aside just for a second. We need to do the straps next. So we have 4 straps, all different lengths. We want to fold them in half and sew all the way along at 1 centimeter from the fold. So we're creating 1 centimeter wide straps. So I've sewn all of these straps. Now we need a loop turner. I highly recommend this, much better than using a safety pin. We're going to turn them the right way around. Now we're going to take our 6mm braided elastic. If you don't have this exact size, that's fine. Just get as close as you can. We're going to thread it on the inside of all of these straps. Amazing. So we'll put them back in length order. So we're going to start attaching it to the top. We're going to take the longest one and the shortest one. And these are the shoulder straps. So the shortest one is going to go here. The longest one will be in here. So I'm going to thread it through. And I'm going to clip it to this side of the shoulder section, the short side. And then I'm going to clip the other side. Now, you need to make sure you keep the strap flat. You don't want to accidentally twist it at this stage. So I'm going to clip this to this top section here. Like that. So it's in that section. We're going to do the same with the long one. We're going to clip it into the other side of here and clip the other side onto here. Amazing. So that's the top two. Now we have the next two. So the longer one is going to be the one on top, and the shorter one will be the one on the bottom. So I'm going to start with the shorter one. I'm going to put it through this side here, which is the closed side. This side is still open on a corner. So the short one, I'm going to clip to this bottom part here. And this slightly longer one, I'm going to clip exactly in the middle. There we go. So 3 evenly placed straps. Now we need to connect it to this other side here. So the thing is with this one, this part here gets attached to the pants, which means it's going to be stretching vertically, whereas this side will just sort of wrap around the body. So what we do here is we take our ruler. We're going to measure how far apart these are. These are 7 centimeters apart. We're going to take away 1 centimeter. So we're going to attach the other side of this middle strap. We're going to attach it 5 centimeters away from this top one. And what that does is it helps keep the straps looking straight when you're wearing it on your body. And we're going to do the same with this one. So since this is in the middle, it's 7 centimeters away. So the other side of the strap is going to be placed 6 centimeters below this one here. So not the full 7, we're going to do 6. We always need to make sure the straps are flat on the inside as we do this, all of these steps as well. So I know now it looks a little bit messy because the straps are shorter than the front piece, which is exactly how it is supposed to be. Hopefully you can still see that we need to sew this side seam here, the shoulder seam, as well as this side seam here. So the bottom section will stay open. So I've finished all those seams. Personally, I prefer to do a straight stitch on these ones because I can sort of go over the straps a few times, make sure they're very secure. Whereas on my overlocker, they sort of move around a little bit. So yeah, I prefer to sew this part on my sewing machine. Now, just to check that you have done everything correctly, you can turn it the right way around. Amazing. So hopefully you can see this coming together. We've got the short strap over the shoulder here, the long strap, and then the 2. So I'm going to turn it back now that I've checked, because before we finish with the top, we just have a little bit of elastic to put in. So we need to put some elastic in the seam allowance on this long section here, as well as this long section on the bottom. And what that does is just helps it stick close to the body, so as you're dancing and moving, you don't accidentally have these little like waves of fabric. So I'll show you at the sewing machine. Okay, so I'm at my sewing machine. We have the long top section here. We'll start with that one. I'm gonna place it in my sewing machine. Just move this strap out of the way first. So it doesn't have to be from the very top, just close to it is fine. We're going to take our 6 millimeter braided elastic, and we're going to sew it onto the seam allowance with a wide zigzag stitch. But as we sew, we are going to gently pull on the elastic. If I was to give it a number, I would say we're stretching it to about 30%, 30 or 40% of its capacity. So we're not, stretching it all the way, but it's just to create some security as we wear it. So that is done. Now we're going to do the other long edge as well. So that side's done as well. We're finished the top section. Now we move on to the bottom. So hopefully you can still see it taking shape. We'll place this off to the side for a moment because we need to do the legs now. So I know this is black fabric, which could potentially be a little bit difficult to see. So I'm going to try my best to make it as clear as I can. So this is the front section that we have. It is only one piece because this section here is cut on a fold. And this section is where the pieces separate up to the crotch section. So that's the piece you should have before you. Now I'm going to use my chalk. I'm going to write B on this side, and that stands for the back or the wrong side of fabric. Okay, you can see that on camera. So hopefully that makes it a little bit easier. So we're going to start with this back crotch section. So we have the wrong sides facing out. Therefore, we have the right sides facing together. We're going to take one crotch piece. We're going to take the gusset. We're going to make the point of the gusset face the top of the pants, and we're going to place it right side facing down on this end of the crotch here. There we go, just like this. So it's on this crotch section, and we're going to sew just this section here. So we've finished that piece of the gusset. Now we're going to fold the pants back in half, right sides together, so we can see the back or the wrong side is facing out. So we're going to take this gusset piece, open it up, and then we're going to line it up with this rear top crotch section. And we're going to clip all the way to the top, like so. So that's what it looks like. So when we sew this part, we want to keep the seam allowance of the gusset nice and flat. So we're going to sew this whole edge here. So this is what it will look like. So the gusset triangle piece is pointing up towards the top of the pants. Now we're going to take the waistband, fold it in half but the other way, shake it out, and we should be able to see sort of the legs coming together. So we're going to clip the legs. Actually, we need to start in the middle for this one. So we have the 2 leg sections. We're going to take the center of the gusset piece, place a clip on it, and we are going to clip it to the center point of the front of the pants. Now that we have the center point marked, we're going to clip all the way out to the ankle. Now we'll do the same for this other leg as well. So now we're going to sew along this one long inner leg seam here. So that inner leg seam is done. Hopefully by now it's starting to look a bit more like a pair of pants. So we're going to turn it the right way around. There we go. Now it's time to connect the top. So the first thing we need to do is mark the center point of the front. And the best way to do that is to fold it in half and have the back seam on one side, and then just place a clip on the halfway point. Now we also need to mark halfway around that section. So if we open it back out again, and if we place this back seam and this front clip together, then fold it in half, that's how we're going to get these side marks here. So the halfway point in between the front and back. We'll do the same for the other side. There we go. So we have the sides marked out, the front, and then the back is just the rear seam. So we don't need to mark that one. So first thing, I'm going to place some clips on this raw edge here. I feel like that might make it a bit easier for you to see. I'm trying to make this as clear as possible. It's a little bit hard to see because of the elastic in the seams, but I'm going to try my best. So this is the bottom section that is going to be attached to the pants. And we have the right side facing out. So we're going to place it with the front facing down towards the jumpsuit, and then the front of the pants facing up. So that way, the 2 fronts of the jumpsuit are facing each other. Now we're going to take the center point of this raw edge here, and we're going to line it up to the center point of the pants, which is what we marked out with a clip just before. Now we can clip the pants onto these other 2 sections. No stretching or anything like that, just holding it out flat and clipping it in place. Now, if this part is a little bit confusing, I completely understand. But what you can do is sort of like hold it up in place and just see if it's in the right place. So we've got the shoulder seam here, the elasticated seam, which is going across the chest, the other elastic seam, which is going across the abdomen, and then the side of the pants there. So I can see that I have it in the correct place. So I just wanted to be sure of that before moving forward. So now we are going to sew just this section here. So just the raw edge. So that's all done. You can just use your sewing machine here as well. But yeah, I just like the finished edge a little bit better. So I've done that raw edge there. And we're just about finished. So we just have this raw edge to finish over at the sewing machine and then to hem the ankles. So I'll show you at the sewing machine. So the next part is to finish up this raw edge, which is going to be around the waist. So what we want to do is from the connection point with the raw edge facing to your right, we're going to place it into our sewing machine, starting just where this join is. Now again, we're going to take our braided elastic we're going to place it underneath our sewing foot. And we're going to place it just a couple of millimeters away from the edge because we want to be able to conceal the elastic when we fold it over. So this is the wrong side of the fabric, by the way. So we're only sewing the elastic on the inside. So I'm going to sew a wide zigzag stitch, and I'm going to stretch this elastic just ever so gently because we don't want it to be digging into our abdomens. We just want it to sit nicely. So I'd say pulling it maybe like 10-15% of its full capacity. So we're going to stop when we meet the join on the other side. Now the last step is to fold this over and just do a finishing seam. That way, obviously, we don't want any of this white elastic sticking out. Now, what I like to do is I like to include this seam allowance as well. So I will start somewhere in the middle and go all the way around the waistband. That way, when you wear it, I think it's just a really nice uniform look. But you do technically only need to do this part if you would like to skip sewing over this seam allowance here. Now, when you get to this part, you want to try and sew as close as you can to this edge of the elastic. That way, as you're wearing it, you're not going to like accidentally see this little bit of white. So the whole top, the jumpsuit is done. Now we just need to hem the bottom. Now we can use a straight stitch because they're wide leg pants, so we don't need the seam to stretch at all. So I'm going to fold it in 1.5 centimeters and sew all the way around. So I'm just going to tidy up this seam as well. So that's all done, and I'm just going to do the other side off camera. So we're all finished. I just like to put padding in as the last step. So I'm going to cut 2 small holes in the most inconspicuous area that I think is appropriate. So one of them is going to be down the bottom here. Just make sure you're only cutting through one piece of fabric. You don't want to cut through the front. Then this other one is just going to be down on this section here. It's a bit hard to see, but hopefully you get the idea. So now I'm going to roll up my padding and just place it inside. And you're completely finished.